the $1,000,000 question is who is Emile Zola?
It's a great question because
Mike?
honestly, after this, I don't have necessarily a clearer sense now that I'm thinking about it.
The audacity for these filmmakers to make a movie about a guy that they think I'm gonna remember 100 years later is pretty insane. That's
That's a
like
good
making.
question
That's
too.
like
It's
wanting to make a. It's like making a movie about Herman Foots.
who?
Exactly. Who the fuck is that?
1, 2, 3, 4.
These boys only want the best stuff. They want the cream of the crop. They don't want none of that Michael Bay shit. They want the shit that pops. Oscar bait, black and white. Maybe something French. If it's got more than one explosion, honey, put that shit on the bench. Oscar Wieners, Oscar Wieners, Oscar Wieners. These boys are the Oscar Wieners.
Yum yum.
Oscar Wieners.
Welcome to Oscar Wieners,
Welcome.
the only show on the internet where Hollywood's biggest night rucks the make. Excuse me, rakes the muck.
Like this is
Oh, you take that.
disgusting.
Let me take that again. The
Okay.
only podcast on the internet where Emile Zola.
So your levels are peaking. My
I'm trying to
goodness.
think of the name of one of his books. I think one is called like I'm Justice.
Oh, he had justice, and I'm a Nana, I guess.
Nice.
Thanks.
That's the one I was trying to think of, but couldn't think of the name.
How fucking ridiculous is it when he just like mentions an idea and then it just smash cuts to a book that he's already written? Like
Well, he was
time
like
jumps so quickly.
he was fucking like putting these things out. He wrote like 20 books. He's putting out like a book every like fucking 9 months.
He's the French original Stephen King, is what
I
he
guess so,
is.
yeah. But even in like 1937 when this movie came out, it's like, is that could people not stop talking about Emile Zola?
No,
I mean, I guess it was
I
like
have
it was only
to.
35 years earlier, but still, that's kind of like think about 35 years ago is like the 90s,
Yeah.
which is a little bit crazy. But
Well,
it's like,
yeah, I guess so.
or like, yeah,
About. We don't know
about
time, okay?
late 80s and 90s, whatever. Like, I don't know, who's like some guy who wrote like some books or just did like a thing and we don't talk about him ever. I can't think of him because I don't know. That's the problem.
Well, that was a weird proposition. Yeah, you don't know anybody that you don't know until you know them.
I'm just a little sorry. I've been huffing monoxide all day,
Jesus Christ.
carbon or otherwise.
What a sorry way to go.
All right. This is I know I'm Michael. He's Ander.
Hey,
This is a podcast where every week we pick a Best Picture winner at random and try to figure out if it's Best Picture worthy. And obviously, this week we're talking about The English Patient.
no one would
Uh,
know the difference.
no, we're talking about the life, and this is my ad in parentheses, and death of
Yeah.
Emile Zola.
Oh, nice.
Uh, Directed by William Dieterle, I think is how you say his last name.
French? Is he French? I
It's
guess.
a great question. Let's see. He's German.
I'm a little disappointed. I feel
Oh,
like
because a man from France is not making a movie about this French guy.
I guess it doesn't. I guess it doesn't have to be that way, but it just in my mind, I pictured that it would. Like this is like a bunch of French people are making this, and like we have to tell the story of Emile. The Americans will love it.
Well, now that I'm thinking about it, like I wonder if he was because he's a German in 1937, the Nazis are really picking up steam. I wonder if like this German guy was like it was really heroic
Mm.
when Emile Zola, this Frenchman, stood up against the French military, stood up for a Jewish man against the French military. I wonder if like that was part of like his interest. I don't know.
Look at you. You woke up on the right side of the bed today, huh?
I slept 2 seconds and a
Just
half.
seconds.
I was sort of trolling this little simp on the Reddit forums. So
Jesus Christ. The Reddit forums for Emile Zola.
Yeah. You'd believe the Redditors are crazy for this Zola guy.
They love
Uh,
him. They simp for this man.
everyone was saying how much Riz he has.
He does have Riz, I will say.
Uh, the 1938 Best Picture winner.
Congrats.
The life of Emile Zola is about the life of Emile Zola, who is a famous French writer, controversial French muckraking writer in the like 1880s.
Well, in the very beginning, we get slapped with that big old time card. I think it's like 1860 something, if I'm
Right.
remembering correctly.
And he's like down on his luck, and he like seems like
Yeah.
he hasn't really written anything yet.
He's living in like a shack in
Yeah.
Paris.
Yeah.
Living
With
in a
his
shack
artist
down in
friend.
Old Perry, where he drank champagne and sipped some tea. Oh, my Zola. Zola Zola. Zolo la Zola.
Ray Davies is absolutely creaming his jeans for that cover.
He lived in a shack. He died of smoke inhalation. And he stood and he died.
You know what's weird? Like, I feel like they kind of foreshadow. This episode's all over the place, but who cares? It's Zola. You got to be all over the place
You
with
got
Zola.
Yeah, Zola's
Um,
your scatterbrain for Zola.
it's kind of like I feel like they slightly, and I find it maybe slightly like, I don't know, a little bit silly in like almost a rude way. I mean, I don't think they mean it this way, but it's like throughout the movie, he hates when the windows are open. So it's almost like they're foreshadowing when there's
yeah.
going to be monoxide poisoning. That's like, oh no, of course there isn't a window open because he hates drafts.
Oh,
That's
I
I was like, is that anything?
God, what a mind bender Zola is. This
Yeah,
is
this
really
movie's this is sort of the tenant of its time.
For once I do agree with you. It's a little bit it's kind of like a brain scrambler. This
Yeah.
Zola business.
Um,
But
right.
who is he? What are the lives and times of Emile
the
Zola?
life and times of Emile Zola. So the basic, it's sort of for like the first like hour, it just kind of follows Emile as he's rising from sort of a poor artist to like this pretty acclaimed, if sort of detested by the powers that be of France writer.
Yeah. Because
And
he's slinging shit. He's taken down the powers that be. He's writing about prostitutes. Is his first book?
Nana actually comes like the way the movie's structured, it seems like Nana is like first, but it's not. Like if you look at his bibliography on Wikipedia, Nana is like his like eighth book.
Oh, but is it like his first hit? Because that's how the movie made it seem.
I don't know. That's a good
'Cause
question.
He was like flat broke. Like he was
Right.
coming to the publisher's office to ask for an advance so he could pay rent.
Right, right.
You actually sold 36,000 copies, which back in the day, that's
Yeah.
that's like $7.2 billion or something.
Again, your math your math on old money continues to astound me.
Nobody correct me if that's incorrect.
Um, just real quick, Emile
Okay.
Zola is played by Paul Muni. He was nominated for an Oscar for the performance.
Nice.
His wife is played by Gloria Holden, Alexandrine Zola.
Beautiful name.
That is a cool name. I don't remember his friend. Do you remember his? Oh, Cezanne is played by Vladimir Sokolov.
Yeah, they introduced Paul Cezanne. I'm like, wait a second, that's a guy that we know. I know that fucking guy. Can we
Oh,
do
is
the
that
movie
is that a
about
guy that
him?
I'm supposed to know?
Yeah, he's like well, you don't have to know, but he's like a famous French painter. Or
Should have been more like
artiste.
the life of Paul Cezanne.
That's what I was like. Can we pivot at some point? Like that's. I was like, hey, I know that guy.
Um, yeah. So Zola's just sort of writing stuff. He's mucking the rake. He's raking the muck. Excuse me. Um, and the movie like at the hour mark, it sort of just jumps like
Like
30
100
years into the future.
Yeah.
It's like it really goes through this shit quickly.
They show his
Um,
beard growth over time, which I did.
and
I admired that. That little that
Yeah.
little that
He
little
also
trick.
grows like kind of a little chubby doughy belly.
Yes.
His hair kind of gets gray. And he gets filthy stinking rich,
All loaded.
loaded.
What's
He's
French
living
for
in a
rich?
mansion. Yeah. Elodie. Um,
Eloti.
um, and then sort of the main kind of, I guess, crux of this movie is the Dreyfus affair, which was a real thing that happened, obviously, in like 1901 or two, sometime around then.
Is it?
Um, the French military, what happens again? They like make a mistake. What?
So there is a traitor in their ranks.
Right.
There's somebody who's like giving information to the Prussian army, I believe, who they're sort of at odds with at the time.
Yeah.
And then I think a general or some sort of administrator, some higher up guy is like looking down the list of guys, and he finds this guy, Captain Dreyfus. Yeah, Captain Dreyfus, and it says like religion, Jew, and then he's like, "That's our guy right there. That's our
Yeah.
traitor." And it's like,
Um,
ugh.
Even before that, they're like as they're looking through guys to basically blame it on.
Yeah,
Before they land on Dreyfus, I think there's even like a guy where it's like, oh, he's from Hungary, he's a foreigner. Maybe we could pin it on him.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. Who's
yeah,
not
they're
true to the French cause?
right. Who's not like French born and bred slash I don't know, what's like the main denomination of France? Is it like
French.
Catholicism?
Oh, yeah, I would say so.
I read some letterboxed reviews where people were angry that the movie wasn't more about the anti-Semitism of it all.
It's not
And
addressed directly.
it is that one time.
Yeah. Like it's
Uh
clear that that's why they're targeting him, but like there's no other real mention of it.
yeah, it's true. Um which I guess is a valid criticism. To me, like the one instance, I get like, I don't know. It's hard to remove the movie from its time and place. So I
Yeah,
don't know. It's like the one mention I'm like, that was, I guess, enough to have enough context for why this is happening, even if they're not like, but I guess like the whole court case that eventually happens against Zola and the French military is like they're sort of talking around anti-Semitism, which I guess is a problem. It's a problem because
yeah,
it's like we're not even getting into this issue. It's just sort of like,
right. Like it feels a
yeah,
lot like it's the bigger issue that's underlying, but the movie doesn't really want to talk about it. Like it's not really about anti-Semitism. It's more about speaking out against injustices. But the injustices, in quotes, are like pretty vague. Like they don't. It's like we know what it is. It's these guys in the higher power are anti-Semitic and bigoted people,
yeah,
but we're not going to address it directly. So Zola gets involved in this issue with Dreyfus, kind of reluctantly at first. Like he's kind of a fat cat sitting in his big office. Like he's a loaded dude now. Um,
even like Cezanne comes to him like in
yeah,
his old age and is like, I can't be friends with you anymore because I feel like you've kind of lost touch with like the the POV of the people. You're sort of just like a rich guy now.
that's also some fucking bullshit, which I didn't like. Like if I ever got like if I ever lost sight of it all, don't just like ditch me for the countryside. Like I thought they were homies, and he's just like, nah, actually, I don't really want to like correspond with you anymore because you seem to be you seem to have lost your way. You used to kind of be like sticking up for everybody, and now you're just looking out for yourself.
Yeah, but um, I think it's funny the way that scene ends because like Zola is like, but Cezanne, you'll write me letters at least, right? And he's like, no,
Which I
bye,
kind of respected that though.
bye forever.
Yeah, you'll write at least, right? He's like, nah, you can think of me, and that will suffice. Brutal.
I do think this is the most interesting part of the movie. Just the idea of a guy who, like, I don't really see stories like this, and I think it's a really interesting idea for a story where like a guy starts out as like super liberal and like wants to stir the pot, and then eventually gets a lot of success, gets old, and is like, I'm kind of done doing that. I don't really care. Well, no, it's not that he doesn't care. It's just sort of like that's sort of I did my duty. It's the job of other people to do it now.
Yeah. It's the
I'm
definition
just
of
gonna
resting on your laurels.
totally. And I think it's interesting as an idea for a movie because then the Dreyfus affair um brings him back into like raking some muck.
Right. But I think the biggest problem here is that I don't really know a lot about to begin with. I don't know a lot. I'm like going into this, I'm like, who the fuck is Emile Zola? Like, and this movie kind of presents him as if he's like Abe Lincoln. Like, it's like, oh, here's this classic guy from history that everybody
You've all read
knows.
Nana, right?
Yeah, you've all read this shit. And I'm like, can I? I'm a casual observer. I'm not familiar with this guy. Like, can I get like a rundown? It's like every Spider-Man movie has his origin story. Can I get the Emile upbringing? Like his, I can't really. I root for him a little bit because he's presented as this main character, but like I also can't like dig in and really support Emile because I don't really sympathize with him much. Like we don't see his adversity. Or is it his times of adversity last like 20 minutes of movie time? Less, probably. And that's his upbringing. That's like his up and coming part. He's mostly a fat cat for the entire movie.
Also, the problem with the way the movie's structured is like you follow Zola for like close to an hour, and
Isn't
then it
it?
pivots for like 20 minutes to Dreyfus,
Probably
who's
longer than
played
that.
by
It was a noticeable stretch of time where I was like, where's the main character of this movie?
yeah.
His name's in the title.
So Alfred Dreyfus is played by Joseph Schildkraut, and then his wife Lucy Dreyfus is played by Gail Sondergaard.
So his
And
wife
it's
comes to Emile.
yeah, and but it just sort of pivots to them, and also the French military like deciding on they're like, should we be anti-Semitic? And it's like, I think we should. That seems like the
Yeah.
best option. Um, for like 25, 30 minutes, and it's like, and I'm sort of like, where's Sola? Like, not that this isn't like kind of interesting, although I don't know. I don't the Dreyfus affair as a historical thing, I think is interesting and like worth talking about. The way it's presented in the movie, at least like the as it progresses, as they like choose Dreyfus and then he's sent to jail, I don't think it's like that interesting. I don't think it's any more interesting than like Zola just writing a book and like getting farted on for it.
I mean, I get like you kind of need that setup to the setup with like where we just follow Dreyfus and the
Yeah.
French, military. You need it to set up the main conflict of the movie. So I get that. But also at the same time, you don't really dig into the heart of the real issue, which is anti-Semitism. So like you
Right,
can't have
right.
it both ways. You can't just be like, I'm gonna leave our main character for like 20 to 30 minutes to talk about these guys who are also kind of a big deal, but then also like not talk about why the issue is really important.
You know, the more we talk about this, the more I'm like, actually, I do have a problem with the fact that they only reference Dreyfus being Jewish like once. Because yeah, it's like otherwise the movie is just surface level and kind of has nothing to say. Because the whole reason the French army did this was because he was Jewish, and that's like you can make a movie about that. But like otherwise, it's just sort of like I don't know. It's just like the French military picking on this guy
I
for
mean, I think
seemingly a random reasons that kind of don't really matter.
yeah, it becomes a very blanket statement about um, authority shouldn't just be blindly trusted. There should be accountability, which I agree with that sentiment. But it feels like it's almost like being afraid of. It's almost like saying like, "Ooh, look at this shark's fin. Isn't that scary?" It's like, no, there's like a shark under there. Like, you guys have that, which is way scarier.
Yeah.
I feel like yeah, it seemed like they were not avoiding, but just like chose not to talk about a more severe issue.
When they're targeting somebody because of their difference, that's scarier than just it being random almost. Because
Yeah,
it's like, oh, you are thinking about this.
it more focuses on like the lengths that they go to cover up their error. Like they find out that it's not not Richard. I keep wanting to say Richard Dreyfuss, but what's this? Alfred, whatever,
Alfred
Captain
Dreyfus.
Dreyfus.
Yeah, they find out it's Esterhazy, Major Esterhazy, played by Robert Barrett.
Bobby.
Little stinker of a man.
Yeah, and then they're like, they basically like try to write their own version of history, and then when they're questioned in court, like they like they're somehow protected by the law and like can't answer questions, which that actually felt like very kind of like current and also like it's scary that like here's this judicial system that's established to find justice, and it's like we can't ask these guys any questions because of just random legal tape. You know what I mean? Like that felt very real.
Right. Totally. Yeah. And even like the justice system being on the side of the French army,
Yeah.
like
It's like
those two things
it's like they
working in tandem.
automatically have it.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
Yeah, because so basically the court case isn't about Dreyfus. It's that I mean it is, but it's not directly about him as they make as they make very clear. It's like
Zola is on
goes
trial.
Zola's on trial, I guess, for like defamation of the French army or
Yeah,
something.
because he writes an article basically lambasting all of them, and
They're targeting Dreyfus. They don't say this in the movie. Well, they like allude to it once, but like obviously because he's Jewish, but also because they made a mistake in choosing Dreyfus, but they can't they'll be seen as weak if they like renege on that mistake and like
yeah,
actually are like Esterhazy, you're actually going to jail. Dreyfus, you're free.
yeah, they don't want to. They know that they've made a mistake and they don't want to correct themselves, which is
Yeah.
that's no good.
That's no good. Like I do think this movie like I don't think this movie understands sort of the uphill battle that individuals face when confronting the powers that be, the military, the government, etc. I think it's good about, you know, understanding that stuff and kind of understanding the nuances, like you were saying, you know, like with the legal system sort of just being rigged, you know, to favor the government slash army. I just don't think there's enough there. Like, I agree with this movie's message ultimately, even if it doesn't dig deep enough into the anti-Semitism. It doesn't really dig deep into it at all. But yeah, do you like this movie?
I mean, I think most crucially is that it's not interesting. Like it's kind of a snoozer. Like you have the
Yeah.
makings of something that's interesting, but it's not really. The courtroom climax is pretty lit. Um, Emile delivers a monologue. The court just lets him go on for some reason, and he goes off.
I was surprised by that because the court over and over again, whenever anybody says Dreyfus, the judge is like, "We're not talking about that. That case is closed. This is about
Yeah,
Zola's defamation of the French army or whatever."
yeah. I think they just let it run because movies. I don't know. But it was cool. It was a
Yeah.
cool monologue. It was stirring. It was moving. But mostly throughout the movie, it's pretty drab. It doesn't have the juice that you kind of want from this conflict.
We don't get enough about Dreyfus. We are with him for 25 minutes. Yeah, we're with him for 25 minutes, and but it's not even necessarily him the whole time. It's just the French army deciding that they're going to pin this traitor thing on him. You get him for a little bit. He's like, I'm innocent, I'm innocent. Then you see him in jail a couple times. You see him like aging in jail because he's in there for like a couple years.
When they prove him innocent, they're just like, "All right, you can go," and
Yeah,
he's like standing there like, I could just leave. I could go home now." They're like, "Yeah, what the fuck are you doing here, dude? Get out." We
why
have
are
another
you
guy
here? Why
coming
are
in.
you still here? It's like you just opened the door.
Like, there's no like, "We're sorry." It's just like,
See
bye.
that's like spot on. It's just like sort of
Yeah.
like whatever.
Imagine just like imagine doing absolutely nothing wrong, and and then you just get taken away to jail for reasons unknown, and then you're there for a decade, and then you're just released for reasons unknown. That's insane. You would go nuts.
Yeah.
Kind of bonkers. Who is the guy that killed himself in jail? Because they cut to a guy and they're like, "Oh, he's offed himself."
Is it Esterhazy?
I don't think. I think maybe it's like the other officer that
Oh no, yeah. I think
was
you're
getting
right. Yeah,
talked to.
yeah. It's one of the top little stinky brass
Yeah,
people
stinky brass boy.
up at the top.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
Though.
Well,
Well, I mean,
I think
don't be corrupt and don't
he
be.
should go fuck himself.
Yeah, well, he's
Um,
dead, so I hope you're happy.
Good. I hope he's
Jesus.
fucking burning
They're all
in
dead,
hell.
actually. I mean, now. Isn't
Yeah.
that crazy that they're dead? Emile is dead and we get to live? That's kind of
Well,
nuts.
I mean, well, and then we'll eventually die, and then some
Well,
kid
we'll
on like
see.
a fucking,
We'll see.
riding a hover car like a surfboard
see.
is like, isn't it crazy that these stupid dumbasses have their own little stinky little podcast, and then I get to live? I'm going to the moon now.
That's so cool. Honestly, more power
Today.
to you. I hope that someday in the future, someone's like, yeah, look at these stinky little boys. I get to live. And I really want that for you, the future. I hope I don't die from carbon monoxide poisoning. That would be
Absolutely,
brutal.
absolutely. Check your batteries, people.
Check your batteries. That's how. I mean, it's sad, but it's kind of funny. Like, Emile is just like sitting there writing something, and then he says to his wife, he's like, something akin to, it's like, it's not a war of wars, it's a war of ideas. And each man and woman has to make sure that in their lifetime they present their ideas from their bringing forth onto a page. And then he dies like that second. She leaves the room. It cuts to like some smoke entering the room, and then it turns out he's just died.
It's the way these events are dramatized. It's like obviously they have to like connect them more because
Yeah.
it's more dramatic. But it's like, yeah, Emile dies the day before Dreyfus is like officially released or whatever.
Yeah,
I
that's
think.
nuts.
And it's like, but I don't think that's how it actually happened.
So then what the fuck are we doing here? Like, what is the point?
It's just like, I think it's just supposed to be like, because then Dreyfus is released and he's like, everyone's like, Zola is the hero, and then it's like, he's dead. Zola is dead. Yeah, it is kind of funny when Zola dies because he's like, I think it's funny because he's so inspired. He's like, he says to his wife also, he's like, I haven't been this inspired in fucking decades. And he's like, I suddenly have all these new ideas from the Dreyfus affair. Like I feel so charged with with like I want to give the world, show the world what true justice looks like and like what fucking is right and whatever for the masses. And then he's like, as he's writing, he's like, wow, I feel kind of shitty. And then he's like, wait, I feel really shitty. And then like he's in the middle of a sentence and like he dies. And his pen is
Honestly,
like still like held up.
that's the true lesson of this movie, is that whatever it is that you're waiting to do, just go ahead and do it, because you never know when life's gonna give it the old 1-2 and hit you with some carbon monoxide.
That's honestly a great point. The movie's ultimately about how don't waste your time, don't rest on your laurels.
Yeah, don't spend 3 decades of your life just sitting in a mansion. Well, sounds kind of nice, actually. Don't sit in a mansion while your good friend Paul Cezanne lambasts you from afar and refuses
Yeah.
to write.
Yeah,
That's the message.
absolutely. Did you like this movie?
Nah, not enough juice, not enough oomph. I think it stems from, you got to give me some. I'm sure Emile Zola was an interesting guy. I'm sure he lived a fascinating life and had a really influential career. But I didn't see it in this picture. I feel like I need some other sources to provide me that story.
Yeah, I think it's kind of an interesting movie. It's not the most boring thing we've watched, which is a blessing in
Better than
disguise.
Oliver, worse than.
Gentleman's agreement.
Yeah, you know what? That's a perfect sandwich for that. We're better than Oliver, worse than Gentleman's Agreement. Slot it right there.
Yeah, that's where I'd probably rank it, as like right under Gentleman's Agreement.
Perfect.
Would you like to hear the other nominees for the year 1938?
Yes, I would.
So obviously Emile Zola wins Best Picture,
Woo!
outstanding production, I guess. Next up we have The Awful Truth. Ever heard
Ooh,
of it?
sounds saucy. No, I have
I hate when the
not.
truth is awful.
Ugh, disgusting.
It's directed by Leo McCarey.
Is it?
Um, and it's about unfounded suspicions lead a married couple to begin divorce proceedings, whereupon they start undermining each other's attempts to find new romance.
Okay.
Yeah.
What? No.
I mean, it sounds better than Zola. I'll give you that.
Well, who knows? It's it seems like a little romantic affair. Sure, why not?
This title's really confusing. Maybe we can unpack this. Next
Okay.
up, we have Captains Courageous.
Captains like possessive or captains plural?
I think plural because there's no apostrophe S.
Okay, so it's just multiple courageous captains. So why didn't they
Yeah?
just call
Let's
it
see.
courageous captains then, and not confuse the shit out of us?
A Victor Fleming joint who famously directed Gone with the Wind and Wizard of Oz in the same year.
Wow.
This is 2 years before he did that.
Get some
Um,
rest.
this movie is about Harvey, the arrogant and spoiled son of an indulgent absentee father who falls aboard from a transatlantic steamship and is rescued by a fishing vessel on the Grand Banks. Harvey fails to persuade them to take him ashore, nor convince the crew of his wealth. The captain offers him a low-paid job until they return to port as part of the crew that turns him into a mature, considerate young man.
All right, spoiler alert. I mean, I feel like it's the whole
Kind of just
movie.
spoiled the whole arc of the movie.
I mean, I didn't know he was going to become a considerate young man in the end, but he does. So I'll skip
Yeah.
this one.
Next up, we have Dead End. Uh,
Ooh, mysterious.
starring Humphrey Bogart's here. A
Hump
William
Daddy.
Wyler joint.
Oh,
Didn't he direct? Yeah, he directed Mrs. Miniver. We just talked about him.
cool.
It's so funny. There was like five directors back then. You got William Wyler, Victor Fleming, you got
Yeah.
fucking Michael Curtis who did Casablanca. Casablanca. It's just like the same guys making all these movies. Um, Dead End is about mobster Babyface Martin, who returns home to visit the New York neighborhood where he grew up, dropping in on his mother, who rejects him because of his gangster lifestyle, and his old girlfriend Francie, now a syphilitic prostitute. Martin
Oh,
also crosses paths with Dave, a childhood friend struggling to make it as an architect, and the Dead End Kids, a gang of young boys roaming the streets of the city's east side
so
slums.
much shit
Oh,
happening.
to be part of it, to be part of the Dead End Kids. Honestly, this movie sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it an immediate red flag if your gang is the dead end kids?
Yeah, it's
Not a
like,
good thing to
I
be
feel
a
like you're
part
not
of.
making it out of this neighborhood, my
No,
friend.
do some after school sports or activities instead.
Play
Chess
stoop
club,
ball.
sure. Play stoop ball.
Um,
Yeah, that's piqued my interest, and I like.
even
I mean, I like Mrs. Miniver, so
And even crazier is this movie's 93 minutes. All that happens in 93 minutes.
that piques my curiosity even harder because I'm like,
Yeah.
how the fuck are you gonna jam all that in that time?
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah, I'll watch it. Next up, we have another movie starring Paul Muni, who famously played Emile Zola.
Oh wow.
The Good Earth, directed by Sidney Franklin.
Okay.
China, during the rule of the Qing Dynasty.
Definitely not. Is it with
Q
a
I
Q?
N G. How do you say that?
I believe Qing Dynasty.
Qing Dynasty. Forgive me, people. I am a dumb ass. The arranged marriage
And
between.
forgive me if I've also pronounced it wrong. So
I'm like, Andrew was definitely right, and then we get an email that you were even wronger.
yeah, I get those a lot.
The arranged marriage between Wang Lung, a humble farmer, played by Paul Muni, I imagine in a very sensitive performance, and
Oh
O
my.
Lan, a domestic slave, played by Luis Rayner, probably also in a very sensitive performance,
Oh.
who endure the many hardships of life over the years, but the temptations of a fragile prosperity will endanger their love and the survival of their entire family. How about we don't set whatever? Just don't do this.
No.
Why?
The odds that this is tasteful are next to none. I'll
And plus,
pass
it's
on
like
this.
2.5 hours.
Pass.
Next, we have In Old Chicago,
Okay. Go see
um,
the bean.
directed by Henry King. This one's about the O'Leary brothers, Honest Jack and Roguish Dion, who become powerful figures and eventually rivals in Chicago on the eve of its Great Fire.
The twist is that Honest Jack is dishonest and roguish Dion is actually a nice
Honestly, you're
guy.
probably completely right. You know, nobody's ever looked at a pair of brothers and been like, this one's Jack and this one's Dion.
No, it's never happened. Definitely not in real life, only in fictitious affairs, for sure.
Only in cinema.
Only in the movies, baby.
Um, Next up, we have Lost Horizon, a Frank Capra joint who famously directed It's a Wonderful Life.
Is
British diplomat Robert Conway and a small group of civilians crash land in the Himalayas and are rescued by the people of the mysterious Eden-like Valley of Shangri-La. Probably also a really sensitive movie. Protected by the mountains from the world outside, where the clouds of World War II are gathering, Shangri-La provides a seductive escape for the world-weary Conway.
I would watch that, though. That sounds pretty interesting.
It does sound interesting.
You kind of had me at Himalayas. Like, I want to see how they put
Depict
some
that.
of this stuff. Yeah, I want to see how that's depicted.
It's probably like cool models and shit, and a lot of like guys
I like
from the
that
rafters,
stuff.
like sprinkling snow down.
And that's so magic. I want to go back to that.
Totally,
I want to. I
totally.
want some of that stuff. Like, I think the island in Zola that Dreyfus is imprisoned at. I think there was like a brief shot of a. It looked like a model, like a clay model,
Right.
and I really liked that.
Yeah. No, models fucking rule. I mean, remember the fucking train crash in Greatest Show on Earth? It was sick because it was just like models
Yeah.
crashing into each other.
And that was pretty sick.
Next up, my favorite title.
Is
This one's called 100 Men and a Girl.
oh no, this is not PG, folks. I've seen this one, by the way.
Directed by Henry Coster. The daughter of a struggling musician forms a symphony, not what I was expecting, orchestra made up of his unemployed friends, and through persistence, charm, and a few misunderstandings, is able to get Leopold Stokowski to lead them in a concert that leads to a radio contract. That's also spoiling the end of the movie.
Stop doing this.
That's not what I expected that movie to be.
Who are the 100 men? The orchestra?
Yeah, I guess
Who's
so.
the girl?
The daughter of a struggling musician. So she's like, "Hey, Dad,
okay.
what if I got like a bunch of musicians together and what if 100 men and me, a tiny little baby girl, got together?"
Weird title then, I guess. Doesn't
It's
describe
such a
the
bad
movie.
Like you could call. I don't think people back then realized that you could call a movie anything.
Which is truly magical.
Next up, we have Stage Door, directed by Gregory LaCava. It's about the ups and downs in the lives and careers of a group of ambitious young actresses and showgirls from disparate backgrounds brought together in a theatrical hostel. Centers particularly on the conflict and growing friendship between Terry Randall, a rich girl confident in her talent and ability to make it to the top on the stage, and Jean Maitland, a world-weary and cynical trooper who has taken the hard knocks of the ruthless and overpopulated world of The Broadway Apprentice. That's kind of interesting. The final film is A Star is Born, the first, I think, interpretation of this story.
Gaga?
Directed by William Wellman, starring Janet Gaynor and Frederick March.
This is the first version.
Yeah.
Cool.
I believe so. Esther Blodgett, fake name, is just another starry-eyed farm kid trying to break into the movies. Waitressing at a Hollywood party, she catches the eye of her idol, Norman Maine, and is sent for a screen test, and before long attains stardom as newly minted Vicky Lester. She and Normie marry, though his career soon dwindles to nothing due to his chronic alcoholism. Tell me something, boy. Are you happy trying to feel that void? I've never seen the Bradley Cooper A Star is Born, and I
Neither have I.
really want to.
Oh, I don't really want to that badly.
Wow.
Seems good. No, it seems fine. I just, there's only so much time in the world. And I
You're
have
too
it.
busy?
No, I have it. Trust me. Trust me, I do have time. I just have a lot of I gotta watch Courageous Captains
Captain's Courageous Dude.
Sorry. My bad.
I don't know if any of these other movies really have what it takes. Fucking Dead End. The Dead End Boys sounded
I
pretty
would watch the
good.
Dead End Boys. That sounds kind of cool.
Um, yeah.
Sorry.
It's not, sorry.
Sorry. So I'm bringing back the one-time segment that everyone knows and loves. And by when I say everyone knows and loves it, I mean nobody knows what the fuck this is. So I just made this up. We got a new one-time segment, baby. And I think you're going to like this one.
All right.
It's called Biofic.
This is really good.
You don't even know what I'm going to say. 5 made-up works, 1 real one. These are all fictitious biopics that I made up. Most of them. One of them is real. You just got to tell me which one's the real one.
How many rounds? 3?
There are 6. So there are 5 made-up works and 1 is real.
But is it just 1 round?
Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
if you came up with like 25 fake
No,
titles,
I
that's
wanna-
insane.
No, we're not going to be here all day, I'm saying.
Just a cute little game.
It's a cute little game for us to play. All right. Would you like to do the first one?
Absolutely.
So we got 1 fish, 2 fish, dead fish, you fish. The haunting true story of a storybook killer. Interesting. Thoughts? Could it be real? Could it be fake?
I think that's so fake.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see. Hold on to that thought. Hold on to that thought.
Yeah.
We have next up Golden Hour. I can't fucking do this. This is a bad idea. Golden Hour, the life and times of piano virtuoso Glenn Gould. Who knows? Maybe. Could be real. Could be fake. Who knows?
I don't think like titles. The thing that gives it away is your titles are like almost like puns or like anti-puns, and I don't think they would title a biopic that way.
Who's to say that that's, first of all, who says that's my title? That could be the real one. You don't know. Next up, we have... I wrote this really late last night. Beetle Chicks, the fabulous sex lives of the Fab Four. Which, maybe I would like to check that out someday. Seems interesting.
Beetle Chicks.
Next up, we have Unrivaled. The incredible true story of Hall of Fame running back O.J. Simpson.
At first, I was like, that sounds like a real title.
It's supposed to be a biopic about his football career before all that nasty stuff.
Where his life sort of took a turn.
Next up, we have the positively true adventures of the alleged Texas cheerleader murdering mom.
Wait, what is the beginning of that? The purportedly true story? What the fuck did
No,
you
they're
say?
positively true. The positively true adventures of the alleged Texas cheerleader murdering mom.
That sounds like a self-published book that like some guy wrote.
It could be an interesting biopic, who knows? And then last but certainly not least, we have Balls, how Herman Balls became the pioneer of pinball. Would you like to hear any of them again?
No.
Does anything stand out to you in particular as being
Balls and
potentially real?
Unrivaled sound to me like they could be real. Like Balls is silly, but I could see, a publisher. Are these supposed to be movies or they're books?
These are all movies. These are all films that you can watch. Well, one of them you can watch, but the rest of them, maybe someday you can. Might I direct your attention to 1 fish, 2 fish, dead fish, you fish once again?
That's absolutely fake.
Okay.
Read them one more time.
We have 1 fish, 2 fish, dead fish, you fish, the haunting true story of the storybook killer. It's based on someone who murdered, based on like Dr. Seuss books. Then we have the Golden Hour, life and times of piano virtuoso Glenn Gould. Beetle Chicks, the fabulous sex lives of the Fab Four. Pretty interesting. Unrivaled, the incredible true story of Hall of Fame running back O.J. Simpson. The positively true adventures of the alleged Texas cheerleader murdering mom. And then, of course, Balls, how Herman Balls became the pioneer of pinball.
I'm gonna say balls.
I absolutely made that shit up.
Shit, it's unrivaled.
That is also fake. I made that up.
What's is it? Is it the fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
It is the positively true
Fuck.
adventures of the alleged Texas cheerleader murdering mom. It is a based on a true story, so maybe like kind of bending the rules of biopic, but it's based on the true story of Wanda Holloway, the woman who is known for attempting to hire a contract killer to murder her daughter's cheerleading rival. Wanda tries to get her ex-husband's brother to help her, and he wants nothing to do with it. That's kind of the thrust of that piece. You can watch that. Came out in 1993. That's available now on some streaming service, I'm sure. Maybe just
On
YouTube.
Tubi.
It's probably on Tubi.
It's so.
It's definitely on Quibi.
It must be so awkward to like go to somebody and be like, "Can you help me murder?" And then they're like, "No."
No. Yeah, like
And
of
it's like-
course not.
It's like, yeah, I was kidding anyway.
Imagine
Like,
going
what
to
do you
your
say?
imagine going to an ex-girlfriend and being like, "Hey, do you want to help me murder somebody? Hey, it's been a while. How are you?
How
Wanna help
have
me
you been?
murder?"
Been
Well, I guess
into
it's
some interesting stuff recently. You want to help me murder?
starting any conversation with someone that you haven't spoken to in a while with been up to some interesting stuff recently is a certified winner. That's amazing.
Thank you.
That's so good. But
Um,
yes, thank you for participating in biofic.
See, I should have went with my gut. I had a feeling it was the positively true adventures of the Texas Chainsaw Woman
Um,
lady.
yeah, it's the only one that doesn't have a colon in it. So all the other ones have the same naming convention. This one does not.
Ass.
I was worried you'd pick that out. As a bonus round, I almost included this, but I thought you'd be familiar with it. Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Sex, but Were Too Afraid to Ask by Woody Allen is a real movie, unfortunately. And you can watch that on the disgraced movie network, Hulu Negative. I don't know.
I see. I've heard about everything you wanted to know about sex, but we're too afraid to ask. But I forgot that it was Woody Allen.
Not good. Not a good look.
Jesus. That's our ep. Thank you for that. That was a great one-time only segment.
Thanks,
We
man.
should do a bonus episode where it's just the one-time segments, but it's just the whole show.
But even if they're not relevant to the movie that we're talking
Well, we
about.
won't be talking about a movie. We'll just
Okay,
be
but
playing
just
a little
games.
quirky
Okay.
little games.
Yeah, I mean, we could do that. Sure, that sounds fun.
Thanks for listening, people. Next week, fuck it.
Oh.
We're going around the world in 80 days.
Oh, hot dog. There is a Jackie Chan version?
Yeah, I was gonna make a joke like starring Jackie Chan,
Okay.
Arnold Schwarzenegger as a fucking cameo.
So it's not
Um,
that one.
No, it's that one's a normal length.
Bummer.
This one from
No.
the 50s is 3 hours long,
Okay. All right.
and I hear it's got a lot of bullshit in it.
Good.
sort of a
Good.
famous Oscar don't.
Oscar, don't. A no-sker.
Yeah, no scur, a famous no scur.
A not-sker.
Yeah. So tune in next week for that. And buy your friend a hot dog.
Yeah. What are you doing?
That's all. Just buy your friend a hot dog. What's it, 25 cents at the local vendor?
It's not, but still, it's not that expensive. You could do it.
All right, see you next week. Wieners.
1, 2, 3, 4. These boys only want the best stuff. They want the cream of the crop. They don't want none of that microbait shit. They want the shit that bops. Oscar bait, black and white. Maybe something French. If it's got more than one explosion, honey, put that shit on the bench. Oscar Wieners. Oscar Wieners. Oscar Wieners. These boys are the Oscar Wieners. Oscar Wieners.
Okay, Andrew, I'm going to buy you a hot dog next time I see you.
Thanks, bud. Likewise. Hey, cheers.
Cheers.
Touching wieners.
Touching wieners since
Nice.
1996, baby.